Faith on Film. Thank you for joining us for today's episode. I'm very excited about today's episode because my guest, not only is he a good friend of mine, but he's rather interesting, and here's why. Nathan Blair has no formal training, no industry background or history. He started with no insider connections or understanding of how things really work. And today, apparently the same is true, but yet he has made a few movies. He's the owner of Kingdom Sight Studios out of Colorado, has written, directed, edited 5 feature films, and he's working on a new film right now that I'm very excited to talk about. We'll talk about that in the second segment. But Nathan, welcome to Faith on Film, my friend. How are you?
I'm great. I finally made it. I'm on Faith on Film with Isaac. It's like I've arrived. I've succeeded. My bio has to change now. I can say I was on the show.
You have made it to the top. Yes.
Somewhere in there.
Sure, yeah, somewhere's in there. So listen, traditionally on Faith on Film, the first part we want on the first segment, we just want to know all about you, not what you've done, not what you want to promote, but who is Nathan? And obviously you didn't know anything about film, and yet here you are. So tell us what your journey was from when you were a fetus to to now.
Well, I hope we've got enough time.
You got 5 minutes for this segment.
No, I think what's been very interesting about this is my journey into film is more about following a calling.
Right.
I came into this thing as a graphic designer. It took me 10 years to figure out what I wanted to do, what God was calling me to do. He led me into graphic design, went to school, started a design studio, and working with churches and nonprofits, which meant I was a nonprofit by default. I was just helping a client one day with some video work. I had a little experience with the program, and God started to kind of pull me at this. He started to say, I want you to do this. I want you to be a filmmaker. My first thought was, okay, you're going to have to tell my wife because I've already out on this limb as it is. And so I actually said no for about a year. Just said, I don't think this is for me. I think I'm living some fantasy. It can't be for me.
Oh, wow.
And then one night, I just decided, you know what, tomorrow I'm going to put this thing to rest. So I fasted. I took the time to fast. I met with some of my mentors and peers and just prayed through it, and really wanted to know that it was him calling me and not me wanting to be called.
Right.
And so God being very gracious, I only had to fast for 2 meals. I was sitting down at my table watching my kids play, and I just got this overwhelming sense, and just the word go. And it's that peace that you know isn't from yourself or hunger. Right. At that point. So I decided, I'm going to test this the best way I know how. I got up and made a sandwich, and I took my first bite, and I was waiting for that conviction, that guilt to be like, oh, you failed. But instead, it was the best tasting sandwich I've ever had. And it's been, a journey since then, figuring out how to do this. The next thing I asked was, do I go back to film school? And God was very clear. It was, no, I want you to do it my way. So that's kind of the container I use for everything, what films we do, how we handle, sets and production to storylines, to everything, to casting. It's okay, God, how do you want us to handle this? How you called me into this craziness? How are you wanting me to take on this adventure? So that's kind of how I got into the industry. And then I go to church with Mike Flack, who is one of my best friends. He's also the worship pastor at our church, and his kids are insanely talented musically. And so they had done a little worship CD, and I said, you know what, I'm going to go ask Mike if I can do a music video. I got to practice my craft. So he sat down with me, and over some coffee, we decided that we wanted to kind of do like a short film. So I wrote a short film, and then I was watching one of the many people I follow on YouTube, and this guy said, never make a short film because you can't sell it. And it was like, God goes, that's for you. And I was like, fair enough. So I went to coffee with Mike again, and I said, what if we did a feature film? And I was like waiting for him to throw his coffee at me. And he goes, yeah, let's do it. And that became a perfect chord. And that was our very first feature film. We had, again, no experience, no knowledge. We had no clue what we were doing except for doing what the message of the film was, which was using your gifts and talents. And so we just went out and said, we're going to do this thing. And we were very fortunate that it didn't tank. It did pretty well. So for a little no budget production, and that's actually how we met. I don't know if you remember that.
Yes, I do remember.
I came by your booth, and you were probably in one of your millions of meetings at a convention, and just left my card, I think. And you watched the trailer and called and said from the plane, I watched this and I'd love to see it. So I sent you a screener, and that's why it's always been so fun. I'm like, Isaac's he's my biggest fan. He doesn't know it, but
I am. I definitely am. And after this movie that you are just finished, that you just finished, I've become a huge fan because it was just fantastic. We'll talk about it in the next segment. But you know what I was going to tell you? It's a good thing that you said yes, because I know a guy that said no for a while, and then a big old fish came and ate him up. And I don't think you would want that. So I'm glad you said yes.
Yeah.
Well, listen.
Big fish in Colorado would be definitely disturbing. That would have been a very big sign. Yeah.
Well, we're gonna take a brief break here, and then we'll come back and talk about this new movie and whatever other movies you want to talk about. But definitely, Sleeper Agent is one that I want the people to really know about. All right, so. We'll be back and we'll talk about that. Folks, just want to remind you to write us and let us know what you think of the program. Simply write us at faithonfilmtv@gmail.com. That's faithonfilmtv@gmail.com. We'll be right back.
I'm Jonah. I'm from Fort Worth.
I'm Noah Long from Colorado.
Hi, I'm Rayma. I'm from Oklahoma.
From TFI, I expected to be in a classroom and to be on set, but what I got was so much more.
I expected a lot of classroom situations, but what I got was a lot more hands-on, and it was more tailored to your interest in the filmmaking world.
A lot of great teaching and information that I could apply to what I love and what I do.
I came to TFI for my mom. She is really passionate about learning film and directing, and so I came as a favor to her, and I'm really glad that I did.
Get over here to TFI.
The acclaimed Creation Museum and outreach of Answers in Genesis is a one-of-a-kind museum filled with animatronic characters, interactive videos, a spectacular planetarium, a special effects theater, and many other world-class exhibits. Since its opening in 2007, the Creation Museum has welcomed millions of guests at its 49-acre location in the greater Cincinnati area. The dramatic finale of the museum is The Last Adam film, where guests experience the glory of God's redemptive plan and hear a clear and powerful presentation of the gospel message. Since the museum's opening, we have heard countless testimonies from adults and young people whose lives have been changed through a museum visit. Now discover how it might change your own life for Christ. Plan your visit at creationmuseum.org and prepare to believe.
Welcome back to Faith on Film. We're here today with my good buddy Nathan Blair, who apparently knew nothing of filmmaking and yet has made some of the greatest films I think that I've enjoyed. Nathan, there's a movie, of course, that you recently produced. It's a little different than I think most of the films that I've seen in the faith-based space. We'll take a look at a trailer right now and then come back and talk about it. All right.
You have been selected for an important operation, and it's a matter of U.S. national security. I'm here to bring you up to speed and get you mission ready. You're being activated.
Yes! Oh, finally! Oh, man.
I get that you feel like you're stuck in a dead-end job.
Haven't you guys ever felt like you were meant for more?
You are not a spy.
How do you know that? I'm a highly trained generational sleeper agent. My name's Gertzen. Walter Gertzen. The O is silent.
Walter, you're not a spy.
I can tell you that the waitress is 200 pounds, left-handed, and can handle herself in a fight. I just got my first mission!
Yes, you did.
He is a complete idiot. He almost cost us the mission twice.
I can see why you fell for him.
If you're in some kind of trouble, you need to go to the authorities.
You!
Reach for the sky.
I'm sorry.
Your mistakes, they're all in the past. Leave it behind. Reach for the sky.
I think he'll be fine.
No, he won't. He's gonna get killed.
Maybe, but he'll be fine.
Nathan, that is the funniest thing I've ever seen. It reminds me a lot of like the Inspector Clouseau type of a things. Where did this come from?
You know, unfortunately, I can't claim 100% credit for this particular idea. Leland Klassen, who plays Walter, lead in the film, actually came to me at a ICVM conference, and he said, I've got a couple stories, let's talk. He pitched me Sleeper Agent and another film, and as soon as I heard the premise of Sleeper Agent, I said, that I love spy movies, I love action, I love comedy. I said, I think we can do that. And so he sent over the draft of the script, and it was structured well, but needed a little help. So by the time he and I were done with it, he was like, I don't remember who wrote what, so we're just co-writers. And so, you know, we took this thing on with the idea that not every faith-based film, not every Christian film needs to have a salvation moment. And sometimes it's just nice to laugh, to have that levity, to be lighthearted and to joke and to be ministered to with that comedy. And
Bible says laughter, you know, does like medicine.
Yeah, and Leland's hilarious, right?
Yes,
so, I mean, it made it easier. So we kind of went into this, and Brad Mix came on as the producer. He's the one that encouraged Leland to speak with me, and he said, you know, I'll help produce this thing. And we would have conference calls, and the three of us are like, are we gonna do this? Is this possible? And I realized that I was the extreme optimist, Leland was a little bit more of the pessimist, and Brad was the realist. And between the three of us, we were always able to kind of find where God was leading us. And we turned the cameras on, and it was an amazing experience to see what God had put together with Sleeper Agent.
Yeah, I had the privilege, thank you very much, of watching a pre-screener of it. I know that you say you still got some work to be done on it, but I thought it was fantastic already. I mean, I was sitting here just laughing throughout the whole movie. There wasn't just one spot where I laughed. It was literally throughout the whole movie. I was just laughing. And yes, there's no altar call in it, but like you said, there doesn't need to be. But there was certainly a very good message to it.
Yeah, and that was the one thing we wanted to make sure we focused on is every, whether you want to admit it or not, every film ever made has a message. That's one of the things you learn is there's a theme, a message to the movie, whether it's faith-based or not. And for us, the idea was our character, Walter, he's just struggling with his purpose, trying to figure out what that is, what he's supposed to be doing. He thinks he's supposed to be a spy, and of course he's wrong, which is why it's funny. But that's the point, is to say that's kind of a universal issue: is what's my purpose? What am I supposed to be doing? And just kind of introduce the idea that as long as you're seeking what God's doing, He'll help you find that purpose. May not be a spy, you know. we're not all that lucky, right? But that's kind of the idea.
This is kind of your story in a sense, because you thought you were supposed to be one thing and you had a different plan. I think many of us go through that a little bit. We think we know what we want to do or what we want to be, but ultimately we have to really listen to what God is saying and do what He already has in plan for us from the time we were conceived, in reality.
Yeah.
So how can people learn more about the movie? They're going to want to know where they can see it, and I know you don't have that yet, where it's going to eventually end up, but is there a way for people to just kind of keep up with what you're doing with that?
Yeah, the two best places are going to be at sleeperagentmovie.com, which is its own URL. It's pretty easy. Our Facebook, Sleeper Agent Movie. On Facebook, we post updates about showing screenings, where we're going to be. We even have some of our behind-the-scenes stuff that was on there. So those are the two best places to get a hold of that.
Fantastic. And by the way, now I want to give out a shout out to ICVM, or International Christian Visual Media, because that's where this whole thing was birthed. So folks, find out about that a little bit. This is just a shout out to them right now, and find out more about it, because maybe that'd be a great place for you if you've got an idea for a movie. Who knows? So that was a free plug for them. Nathan, we'll be right back in a little bit, and we'll talk about maybe what's in your future, what else you've got in mind, because I know you've got to finish this movie up, and there's a lot of work that happens right after it. But I'm sure in the back of your head you already got the wheels are turning for what's in the future. So, folks, don't go away. We're going to be right back.
I never realized how much work goes into taking care of horses.
You think that's hard? Try taking care of thousands of animals at the same time.
Go ahead. Think bigger.
Cell reproduction. More than duplication. It's careful selection and organization, ensuring the perfect balance for development and growth. Powerful, so is our programming. Parables, the leader in empowering entertainment. Parables. Be empowered. Start your free trial today.
I wonder how long a dolphin lives. I wonder if they can make cookies in space. I wonder when people started brushing our teeth.
I wonder if people and dinosaurs ever lived together.
Want to find out?
I wonder how much a cloud weighs.
Welcome back to Faith on Film. We're here with my friend Nathan Blair. Nathan, we've talked about how you got into filmmaking. We've talked about this latest movie that you're, that you've directed and produced and and wrote. But there must be something else in your future. What have you got in mind coming up?
A lot of stuff. What's really interesting about this is, as I've gone through each film, God keeps kind of refining that calling. And one of the things that He's burdened me with was the idea of crossover content, creating films that a general audience would be intrigued by, not just a faith-based audience. Creating content that's more evangelistic in its nature, something that you could take a non-believing friend to see without the idea that. Just get past this, or being quote unquote too preachy. So I'm working on a series of different films in some very interesting genres. I'm wanting to spread our wings as a faith-based industry into new genres. So I have an action thriller.
Right.
I am currently working on a couple horror stories. That's what I said. I said horror.
Oh, you said it.
I did.
Whoa.
Not slasher,
Right.
gross, but very psychological.
Yes.
Something that a younger generation and demographic would go to. They pay millions of dollars every October to go see these movies. They're successful. That's why you have whatever 10,000 in there.
Right.
I want to be able to reach them where they're at, and so I wanted to create something that speaks to that. We have another comedy, and I'm even working on a heist movie. So that'll be a fun one. I'm excited about that one.
Well, yeah, I'm glad you said this about reaching folks outside of the church, because that'll lead me into a subject that I've actually been talking about it for several shows now, and it was something that somebody posted online. And to be honest with you, you gave, I think, probably one of the best answers that I saw in people's comments. The subject, of course, was language in movies, language in Christian movies. This was a screenwriter that was working on a script, and he was asking that question. I don't think he had made up his mind, but he kind of wanted to hear people's views, and you provided an interesting answer to that. Now, when you talk about reaching non-Christians, that's the thing, is that it's hard for them to understand a character that seems to be so super clean, and yet he's the gangbanger or the murderer or the whatever character he is. So how do you handle that, or what is your thought on that, on using language that's a little bit more colorful than what we as Christians tend to use?
I'm going to get in so much trouble. People are going to assume I have a potty mouth. It's going to be terrible. No, what I was referencing in that post was my film Second Greatest, and it was inspired by true stories. And one of the characters was a homeless drunk. And the reality is when he had alcohol on board, he was belligerent,
right,
to this extreme degree. And the language he would use, even in our interviews, even though he'd come to Christ, it just it was ingrained sometimes.
Yeah.
And for me, I needed people to understand what the officers, what the police, what the pastors were dealing with, what the people were looking at. But obviously, there is a line that I wasn't willing to cross.
Sure.
So for me, it was trying to be creative in how I communicated that. A lot of times I would have him interrupted in the middle of what was obviously bad language, or I would have him stop because he was so angry he couldn't even finish a statement. But it was that tricky line, because for me it was like I needed people to believe that he was this person in order to really get the transformation. And it's a tough thing to do. It's the same thing with how much of an inappropriate relationship do we build into a story? How much do we look at? I think that's why it's been a struggle for people to do action films in the faith-based space, because we're supposed to turn the other cheek. And so it's how do we creatively go into the world, be salt and light, and kind of meet them where they are without compromising who we are and what we're supposed to believe. And so for me, it was knowing that line and being willing to walk it and say, this is for the integrity, without pushing it over the edge, without dropping. Yeah. I actually had the actor said, would it be inappropriate for me to use the F word? And I said, yeah, it would be inappropriate. That wouldn't work. Yeah. Unless you mean fudge. That could be a different.
But you see, some people would even say, knowing what they're trying to say by that, they would say, oh, you can't have that kind of language in Christian films. Well, it's a subject matter that maybe will not be completely decided upon today, but it is something that I think that's a good conversation to have, because you producers are going to be, you're going to deal with that every time you create a movie, how realistic you want to be. And, I have a friend that produces Christian films, and I used to tell him, man, your meanest, worst character is better than most Christians I know. But anyway, so if people want to follow you now, not so much the film you're doing, but you personally, how do they get a hold of you?
KingdomSightStudios.com is the website, and that's SIGHT.
Okay.
Most of the time people put sight. It's
Right.
vision.
Okay.
Just email me, Nathan@KingdomSightStudios.com, Facebook, Instagram. I try and blend in, but it doesn't work anymore. So those are the best ways to get to me.
All right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. I'm very excited and looking forward to when that movie comes out. All right. Folks,
thank you for having me.
You bet. Folks, don't go away. We'll be right back.
Only one university in the nation was chosen to demonstrate at the World Equestrian Games, and it's the only Christian university in the South offering an equine management major. Only one university produced the video leading into coverage for the Games, and it's the only university with students hired as part of a broadcast crew for 9 Olympic Games. One university, equipping students for a lifetime of leadership and service. Asbury University. Start here, impact the world.
Cell reproduction, more than duplication. It's careful selection and organization, ensuring the perfect balance for development and growth. Powerful, so is our programming. Parables, the leader in empowering entertainment. Parables. Be empowered. Start your free trial today.
Welcome back. Wow, we've run out of time once again. But I just have enough time to remind you to check out Parables TV, a place where you can watch some great content for you and your entire family. Simply go to parables.tv. That's parables.tv. And of course, write me and let me know that you're watching these shows. Simply write me at faithonfilmtv@gmail.com. That's faithonfilmtv@gmail.com. And of course, follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at faithonfilmtv. That's at faithonfilmtv. Until next week, take care.